Greetings, kindred spirits of Middle-earth. Welcome to the Sisters of the Shire podcast, a haven for all things Tolkien. Today we are at the threshold. We're about to begin it's a weird beginning of the Rings of Power and the Third Age. That's what it's called. Don't come at me. Which is the final section and the epic conclusion, kind of the Silmarillion. The bringing it all together, figuring things out end. So settle in for this episode. We are going to unfurl the grand tapestry of ages gone by when rings of power held the fate of the realms and the Third Age loomed on the horizon. Whether you're a seasoned lorekeeper or a new traveler on Tolkien's road, fear not. We will be here to guide you to decipher the riddles and stories, revealing all the wonderful world of Tolkien. But if this is your first time hearing the story, please start at the beginning, episode 1 or episode 0 if you want to get to know us better, because it will make it so much easier for you to understand what's going on. So, no spoilers. We don't want to ruin this for you. If you don't know what's going on, please start at the beginning. It'd be great. Plus, you might, grow to like us a little bit more over the course of 50 plus episodes that we have so far.
I, Ashley, will be unfolding the tapestry of this tale to my best friend and co-host Abby, an avid Tolkien enthusiast and eager Silmarillion apprentice, diving into these stories for the first time. Together, we'll tread the paths of kings and heroes, secrets and revelations as the Third Age of Middle-earth awaken.
And sadness. Don't forget
and
sadness.
All the sadness.
A lot. So don your hobbit cloaks and stoke the fires of your imagination, and under starlit skies and amidst the rustling of Shire leaves, whoa, this is getting intense. Let us journey through the final pages of the Silmarillion. Because, guys, we're ending this one soon. I can't believe it.
See how many parts I can stretch this out to.
Onwards. Let's go.
Let's go. All right. What do you think of ChatGPT's intro powers?
Those were the robots telling us what to say.
Oh, man. Oh, the robots. They really like to unfurl and tapestry things, don't they?
What a bunch of nerds, Abby, those robots.
So, how are you dealing with the after effects of the downfall of Numenor? How are you feeling?
It's sad.
It's pretty sad.
It's so sad. There was the kinslaying and stuff like that, but that was people who were choosing to be in war. You know what I mean? Those are people who were I'm being a soldier and I'm fighting against other soldiers and we're killing each other. This was a group of people who were okay, if we don't follow this one guy, he's going to burn us in a temple. So we'll just follow him. And then, he's going to try to go conquer all the gods over there. Okay, I guess he's making us go too. And then all the women and children back in Numenor were okay, honey, we'll see you later, I guess. And then they get swallowed up by the ocean. So,
I was going to do a recap, but I think that's a pretty good recap.
So
that's basically the downfall of Numenor in a nutshell. Talk about being guilty by assation.
I know,
man.
Right?
It's I truly wonder choice. how many were actually we hate the Valar, or I guess they're okay. I mean, whatever.
It's I'd rather not be burned in a temple, so sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's just I can't handle the innocent bystanderness of everybody else on Numenor getting hurt.
Tar Miriel.
Why couldn't they have just swallowed up the armada?
Yeah. I thought that too.
Why couldn't have just done
that? Leave the island? Oh, why not leave the island?
Yeah, it would be still a good lesson to the people of Numenor to not mess around. They didn't have
But
to kill everyone. Jeez.
okay, thinking that through though, but then they need to have a lightning bolt go through the temple of Sauron, destroy the temple and Sauron in the process, and then we're good. Because that,
Yeah, like kill him, like directly just kill him, and then we're Gucci, and then everything's fine.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Okay.
I'm just giving you a forewarning. I might be a little off today because I am very tired.
What did you do?
No, it wasn't me.
What did Oakley do?
No, this one I'm blaming on Thor Odinson. We had a epic thunder and lightning storm last night, but it was like at 4:30 in the morning.
Oh, wow.
And it was so bright.
Like right above your house.
Yes, it was so bright. Like the whole room would light up, you know?
Wow.
Like
that sounds
it was
amazing.
so bright.
Terrifying, but amazing.
But I was like fully asleep. And so I was like, what? What's happening? And then I was like, what's going on? And then
am I in Numenor?
Yeah, I was like, what's happening? But people like on my Instagram, like people who live in my town and like my friends and stuff were like, that was the loudest thunderstorm I've ever heard. Like it was like so unbelievably loud. I don't know how my kids slept through it. Like, oh, Luna woke up. She said she sat in her bed and opened her window and watched it happen, that's probably why she's really tired today too. But it was, I was like, Thor, cut it out. Go to your room. It's too loud.
It's not a lightning storm, or it's not a thunderstorm. It's a thunder battle.
Yeah. That's what's going on.
Legends are true.
Yeah. Anyway, and so yeah, I've been up since like 4:30, and then I like finally fell back asleep at like 6, and my son, my littlest one, came in the room, my little 2-year-old, and he came in my room, and he likes to crawl into bed with me, like just snuggle up for a few minutes, and he crawled up and he stood on my bed because my bed is right next to a window, and so he was like looking out the window like, whoa. I was like, can you sit down, please? And my eyes were closed, right? So I knew he was doing that. Like I looked at him for a second, then I closed back my eyes again. I was like, can you lay down, please? Lay down on the bed. I don't want you standing on the bed. And he like dropped down and then just like flung his whole body backwards to lay down. And my face was in the way.
I'm like, either he missed the bed or he hit your face.
My face. The back of his head hit my face,
man,
so hard that like when you like my eyes were closed, but it was like a flash of light, like because it hit me like right on my cheekbone, like right. Oh my gosh. And I'm like, well, I'm awake. I'm awake now, I guess. So
I always hate that. Like, I want you to be sorry for what you did.
I know.
But they're like,
so I'm rocking up. Mommy, why are you crying? Anyway, I want a snack.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm like rocking like 5 hours of sleep and half a swollen face that I think I'm going to get a black eye. But I was just like, you know what? I'm going to find the silver lining that my head was slightly turned. And so if he fallen, he would have hit my nose. Oh my gosh. I probably would have died. Like in those like, you know, octagon fights where people get hit in the nose and it like goes into their brain.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That could have been me.
That could have been you. Well, I'm glad that you lived.
On my tombstone, death by toddler head.
Yes. That would do it. Yeah.
I did have a friend whose toddler hit her in the face like that, and she blacked out. So it's very, it's very real, and it's scary.
Let's put them on the battlefield, guys.
just headbutting.
They're
everyone.
Indestructible. Their energy's off the charts. You just
their
need like
lower
to give
center
them
of gravity
snacks.
can take out. Yeah, their lower center of gravity
small
can take out ankles.
Yeah, let's do it.
Anyway, so
give them a fruit snack little like thing, and yeah, they're
Go
good.
forth
That's
in battle. Honor your family. Um.
If
Anyway,
you
so I'm
don't
just
beat
letting you
those guys,
know.
they're gonna take away your Disney.
Just let you know, I am running on low sleep and a
Yep.
possible concussion.
Cool,
So
cool, cool, cool. Well, I have a Lizzie in the background with me, so if you hear coloring or thudding or whatever, little
is that
whispering,
coloring I
"Mom,
hear?
mom, mom." My favorite. No, literally,
Lizzie,
you could
turn
hear her
down your
color.
coloring.
Well,
It's
literally,
too
last time
loud.
she was coloring, it was a marker on like plywood, like a little like plywood little box thing that I got from like a
Oh,
DIY little kit. And so it was like
yes.
the loudest possible coloring she could have been doing. So I apologize for that
Other than
episode, guys.
chalk on like
Oh
a
yeah.
gravelly chalkboard.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so back to Tolkien. So I mean, you kind of did the recap for us, but basically we ended things with our Farazan and his armies being crushed by a like mountainslide, I guess, by rocks, and then
But they got
Numenor
trapped, right? They didn't
trapped. They're
die.
trapped. And on his own left chaos in his path. Sorry. And then
he threw his thunderbolt. Sorry, I'm sorry. I gotta watch it.
It's hard to stop us once we've started. But Tol Eressëa and Valinor have been lifted up into the sky somehow, or maybe into like another dimension that only some people can get to now. Numenor be gone, and Elendil, thanks to the awesome planning and foresight of Amandil, that man does not get enough credit. Elendil and his sons Isildur and Anarion and all the Elendili, they managed to get together. Were saved. They were kind of waiting on their boats, waiting for their signal for it was time to leave, and the signal came as like a huge gust of wind pushing them eastwards towards Middle Earth. So they were saved.
I get to see him just like flying, like whoa.
Yeah. And then Sauron literally
like
just
mom
died laughing.
No, he didn't die. His body died.
Sorry, his body died. Yes. What is your mom thing?
Okay, do you want to hear my like mom silver lining of hope?
Yes.
For Numenor.
Yes.
Is that, I mean, it's not canon or anything. It's just me just like, I'm going to think this, so I'm not sad. Yep. That a lot of soldiers who maybe weren't like 100% down with the plan sent their families to go with Isildur and Erendil.
Yeah.
Of like, just
I
take
like
them.
idea.
Take them with you.
Mm-hmm. Just tell them you're Elendili. Yeah.
Yeah. Save them from this. Yeah. That's I like that or idea. They were just took pity on them. I don't feel like they would like turn anyone away. I feel like that would be the other guys.
Yeah. I agree.
So that's my happy thought of like.
I like it. I like it.
They tried to find as many people. Like they knew something bad was happening. So they're like, let's try to save as many people as we can.
You really are the optimist out of the two of us, huh? So Sauron's spirit survived and floated back to Mordor, apparently with his ring. So that's how we left things.
And did it say he turned into an eye already?
No, that's what. So I was wondering about that. Like, you kind of were thinking that he was already in eye form, but I think it's more like ghosty. Maybe? Or like black mist,
maybe
shadows.
It's like okay, this is a stretch, but hear me out because I know you've seen it. So you know in the last Star Wars movie with Rey, how they like had that like group of like weird monk things that like
I hated those
resurrected
him.
I feel it's like something like that where like he has like weird sorcerer people that like did that so to like save his body, or
Sure.
save his spirit, I guess, and like put his spirit into something else,
Sure. I like it.
his
I like it.
soul or whatever. That's my
Yeah.
thought of how that worked. Because Tolkien, he goes into so much detail about all the intricate plot points of a story,
Yeah.
right? Right?
Mhm. Man, I have so many questions for that guy in heaven. Okay. So,
He has
moving
a
on to
line. He
our.
probably has a line. He probably has
Oh, he
appointments.
has a line. Uh-huh. Okay, so after a year of doing this podcast and going through the Silmarillion literally page by page, I'm starting to understand why the Silmarillion wasn't published in Tolkien's lifetime. And the biggest reason is that the timelines in his stories overlap so often that he can't have a clear-cut story.
Yeah.
So, like, Turin was
Yeah.
happening while the other guy was happening, and then Baron and Luthien were happening during this thing, and, we have to keep going back and forth in time, and it's just hard to tell that story. And you have
He
to
put
know
that
each
upon himself.
I know he did. And you have to know each timeline and understand the motives of each character and the geography of every realm and mountain to really comprehend the overall story. So, I mean, I get it. He didn't make it easy on us, but, the true people that want to know will find out. So, all I'm saying is that this section is going to be a bit weird. Shocking,
It's
I know.
world building again. Is
Yes.
it world building again?
Just this particular episode, because, okay, let's just start off with the last section of the Silmarillion. I think we said it before. Of the Rings of Power and the Third Age. It literally has a subheader that reads, "In which these tales come to their end."
Oh. Well.
So, yeah. So it's actually going to fill in a lot of holes that we didn't really know about before.
Okay.
But it's also going to skim over things and jump back and forth in time too.
Come on. Well,
But
you did send me an email that has a lot of maps. There's a lot of
we are going to do our risk
here.
game board again because the game board's changed because we're picking up right after the War of Wrath ends, which
when the world reconfigured
is all different. Yes. And it's going to end, I mean, skimmed over, but basically where the Return of the King ends with after the One Ring is destroyed and the people are ring bearers are leaving Middle Earth. So, I mean, like I said, it goes and fills a lot of the gaps that we don't know about, but it's not going to go into detail on that side because that's what The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings are about.
Fine. Yeah. I just want to know the lore behind the rings themselves. Give me that.
Okay, that's what we're going to find out, but not this episode because we got to set the stage first. We got to set up our risk game board.
You're leaving me in suspense as well?
Yeah.
Fine.
And again, I'm going to say it right now. There's going to be a lot of inconsistencies, especially with the Rings of Power show. Just use that show as a visual aid. But anything other than that,
canon.
Just fold it up, put it in a drawer for now, or your head's going to explode.
Just look at the pretty pictures.
Yeah. And just in case some random people are starting with this episode, first, what are you even doing? I want to put it out there.
We still love you, though. Thank you for being here.
Yeah. I'm explaining this section of the Rings of Power in the Third Age, just solely using the information from this section and the Silmarillion. I'm not going into the other books that are out there.
All right.
So So have I given myself enough covering my butts?
All the butts. All the butts are covered.
All the butts are covered. Okay, cool. All right. So we're going to begin by learning a bit more about our main protagonist, Sauron. Now, some of you may remember this from bits and pieces of the Silmarillion, but if not, let this be a reminder. Sauron is actually one of the Maiar. He was one of the lesser gods that were meant to assist the main Valar. And since the creation of Arda, aka the world, Melkor slowly turned Sauron to the dark side over time until he became, quote, the greatest and most trusted of the servants of the enemy and the most perilous. For he could assume many forms, and for long, if he willed, he could still appear noble and beautiful, so as to deceive all but the most wary.
Can I sidebar?
Sidebar.
On TikTok, there is a trend going around where it's like a category, like ranking 1 through 10, and it's with the Lord of the Rings character filter, and people say,
Okay,
like, who's the most like handsome or hot, like they would want to like be with, right? And they're ranking them, and everybody other than like the obvious, like Aragorn, Sam,
Legolas,
Keely, Legolas, and
cute.
Thranduil guy.
How about some Éomer action?
Faramir, he's also beautiful. Anyway,
oh yeah.
People have been putting Sauron as number 1, but it's like when he's like scary with like his like crazy helmet has like the spikes on and stuff, and people are like, yeah, like putting him at number 1. And like I go to the comments, and people who know the Silmarillion are commenting, and they're like, well, actually you would be right, because he was basically one of the most beautiful people in Middle Earth. Like he was one of the most like magically enticing people. Like that was his deal. He was so handsome that it was like hard to deny like listening to him. And so people are like, I respect your decision. He should go on first.
Yeah. And that's like so mind-boggling to me. Like if you didn't know that was his gift, like, you know, most of the Valar Maiar seem to have like certain skills, strengths, jobs, you know, Ulmo's water, and Varda's like the stars. So I like Sauron's gift is like, I can shapeshift. I would never say, like, just from watching The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, like Sauron shapeshift, that's not his gift. His gift is being like terrifying and evil.
Spoopy.
Spoopy, yeah. So I find it, and even the ability to shapeshift alone, like that doesn't come across as necessarily like perilous, but the way that Sauron uses it.
Yes.
Very, very dangerous. So yeah, very interesting.
Okay, other sidebar. Sorry, spoilers for Rings of Power. You haven't watched it. Don't listen to this part. Plug your ears. The guy that they cast for him is not handsome. Like, he's not good looking at all.
I feel like that actor is going to be offended and never listen to our podcast. You're pretty in your own way, sir.
Far, I still stand by what I say.
Well, yeah, they could have made him.
So prettier. I'm like, I know. What the heck?
But it's hard to find that level of pretty though, because he's got to be dark, dark pretty.
There are plenty of options out there.
Okay, well, as much as I would love to cast that role right now, we need to move on.
We're moving on.
It's a question for another day. Okay, so just to review,
we should put that on our Instagram, a poll, like people like, yes. Who would you cast as Sauron, who is supposedly like one of the most beautiful people on Arda? We should throw it out there, see what people say.
Okay, you do that.
I will.
Throughout the first and second ages of Middle Earth, like what we know about Sauron, like he's not mentioned a ton in the Silmarillion. So, like during the first age, he became Melkor, Morgoth's second in command. He led a lot of the armies and things like that. There was that one time he shapeshifted into that one outlaw guy's wife to trick him into giving up the outlaw's secret hideout that got Baron's father and all of his friends killed. If you remember that.
I really wanted him to be like with like a bonnet on, and he's like, it's me. Like really bad, like You can tell it's a man. Like, there's no hiding it.
Like Red Riding Hood.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep. And then
Exactly.
he made his creepy Werewolf Island tower. And then he had an epic
The
song
most
rap battle
battle
with
sounding place
Finrod.
ever.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
The Isle of Werewolves. And then the rap battle. And then he did shapeshift into a werewolf and then was almost killed by
Amazing.
Huon and Luthien. And then he shapeshifted again into a bat and fled.
Was it a big
And
bat or was it
then
like a tiny little bat?
I know I can only imagine a tiny bat for some reason, and it makes it funny.
Just
So
like swing. Goodbye. Fear me.
and then
I am evil.
And then during the Second Age, he built up Mordor and the Tower of Barad-dûr and met with Ar-Pharazôn, went back to Numenor as his hostage, air quotes, took over the mines of Numenor with his cunning and had the people worshipping the dark and Melkor and convinced them to storm Valinor to try and gain immortality. And then his body was killed in the downfall of Numenor, but his spirit went back to Mordor. That's kind of where we left off things with him. Now, I have asked the question, I think you even asked the question, did Sauron fight in the War of Wrath? Because there's a pretty big space in time between the First Age and the Second Age.
And you don't hear about him.
You don't hear about
mentioned.
him. Yeah. So pretty much he got his like butt kicked by Huon and Luthien, and he's like, I'm hiding away forever. And
like a training montage. He's like, I'm gonna get stronger. All the other orcs, actually, like they're in like a gym. They're like, yeah.
No, see, I go the other way. I'm like, that's when he really, really went into his jewelry making hobby. He just really, found therapy in that. And
yeah. He's like wearing like linens and like pottery.
He's got his crafting table and
yeah, he's like zen. He's like, this is
because of course you have to start small. So of course he starts with the macaroni, and then he goes on to beadwork, and then eventually you get to ring making. But you have to start small. You have to start somewhere.
But it's all evil looking. Like it's just like still like very scary.
So I did find something about what could have happened during the War of Wrath for Sauron. And I found it on my favorite source ever, the Encyclopedia of Arda. And it says, quote, "It is very noticeable that there is no mention of Sauron taking part in the War of Wrath. After the loss of his isle, the werewolf isle, he fled to Dorthonion, which was the creepy forest. And the next we hear of him is then after the war. The simple fact that Sauron survived Morgoth's obliteration is very telling and strongly suggests that he must not have taken an active part himself. So this is consistent with what we know of Sauron's character. He preferred to work from behind the scenes, manipulating events to his favor rather than acting directly. On the rare occasions where he went into battle himself, he was always defeated. And this perhaps helps to explain his decision in the later Second Age not to offer battle to the armies of Numenor. Sauron's desire to work from the shadows is most strongly represented in The Lord of the Rings itself. And although he gives his name to that book and is of pivotal importance to the plot, he never makes an actual physical appearance.
I mean, just that little part in the beginning.
Right. That's like a flashback.
Where he loses it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's...
So, I mean, it makes a lot of sense to me that he, didn't want to fight in the actual War of Wrath. I think you even mentioned, like, maybe he was, like, in hiding in case the war was lost. He was, like, in reserve or something. Because he... Melkor didn't want to lose his, trusty lieutenant. It does leave the question of, well, if he wasn't in the War of Wrath, what was he doing? But that's a question for another time. But just...
No, we figured it out. He was working out.
Oh, right.
He was working on himself.
Yeah.
Like, he's giving gifts, like, really badly made pottery to, like, his orcs. Like, the first, like, goes at, like, pottery, and they're like, oh, thank you, master. And then they like whisper to each other. They're like, this is really bad, right? Like, like
Even
this
for
cup
us, it's
doesn't even
bad.
this cup has a hole in it.
In the bottom.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's kind of where we're going to leave Sauron for now. And we're going to go back to the timeline right after the War of Wrath is over.
Okay.
Melkor is already imprisoned, and this is kind of when Eonwë is taking account of everyone. So just a reminder, Eonwë is the Maiar assisting Manwë, the Lord of the Valar. He's like the head Maiar, I guess, in that aspect. And he was also the captain of the Valar's army. And if you remember from the War of Wrath afterwards, he was kind of like in charge of bringing the Eldar back to Valinor or Tol Eressëa. He's like, okay, you guys lost your privileges to be on Middle Earth. Let's go.
Come on.
And if you remember, he even tried to get Maglor and Maedhros back to Valinor, and they're like, no, we got these Silmarils that we need to get. So yeah. So picking up on that job he was doing, quote, Sauron put on his fair hue again and did obeisance or honor Eonwë, and abjured or renounced all his evil deeds. So, the War of Wrath's all over. Sauron's like, oh boy, my master lost. Okay, gotta get all done up and gotta get my flattery shoes on. And okay, I'm sorry.
Slick, combing his hair.
And you know what? I'm like, well, you tell sorry to Finrod. Okay?
Yeah.
Remember Finrod? Your werewolves killed him? And he was the captain of Beleriand. He was Captain America. And he was amazing. And you just killed him.
Yeah. What the even heck, man?
Yeah. So I obviously don't believe him for a second. But it does make a note that some actually did believe his apology. That he actually might have been sincere. If anything, it was because he was scared. Now that his protector and master Melkor is gone, and the Valar just showed how truly powerful and wrathful they could be. So, yeah, he might be kind of sorry, but he's more of like a scared than actually sorry.
I know that.
Yeah.
That's
As a mom, we get this.
That's a kid thing.
Yeah. Are you scared you got caught, or are you actually sorry?
Yeah. Yeah.
But even if Eonwë did believe Sauron's apology, because they were both Maiar, they're kind of the same level of importance. It wasn't within Eonwë's power to punish or forgive him. So Eonwë's like, you know what you need to do? You need to go to Valinor and go back and receive Manwë's judgment. Let him decide, since he's, above both of us. And
go to the principal's office.
Yes. And, Sauron's not really going to do that, because that's like going right into the lion's den. He's like, I was kind of sorry, but I don't want to like admit it in front of everyone and like pay for it. Quote, then Sauron was ashamed, and he was unwilling to return in humiliation to receive from the Valar a sentence.
So he just didn't go. He's like, they're going to punish me. I'm just not going to go.
Pretty much, yeah. And they even like theorize like, well, even if I pretended to be the good guy now, like how long would it take for them to truly forgive me? Like how long would I have to be in Valinor pretending to be a good guy until they actually believe it? And, under Morgoth, Sauron actually grew a lot in his power. So he would have to stifle all that down, deny who he was. And he's like, you know what? It's just not worth it to me. So as soon as Eonwë rounded up the Valar and the elves who would answer the summons to return to Valinor, which, like I said earlier, Maedhros and Maglor are like, heck no, Eonwë returned to Valinor as well. And I can just imagine Sauron being like, "Oh yeah, I'll be right behind you," and then
you guys go on ahead. I'll be there.
Yeah.
Hold on. I gotta go to the bathroom again. Hold on.
So Sauron just vanishes back into Middle-earth. Quote, and he fell back into evil, for the bonds that Morgoth had laid upon him were very strong.
Oh no.
So I find this detail interesting, though. Like, I always thought of Sauron being kind of like Morgoth, of like the born evil kind of mindset. But this makes it sound like Sauron wasn't exactly. And that perhaps, like, if he did go back to Valinor and, you know, maybe talked with Monwë or even Iluvatar, like, it would have been possible to lose those bonds that Morgoth had put on him. And maybe he could have ended up not being evil. But he's like, nah, sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah.
So now that Sauron is back in hiding, let's go over what our new Risk game board is going to look like after the War of Wrath. Because, like you said, the world is a little different now. So refer to your maps, everyone.
Okay.
And of course, I will post these.
All right. I'm ready.
Okay. So the first map is of what Beleriand that we have known to love and, you know, understand over the last year or so. So it looks pretty simple. You got an east, a west, Beleriand, and, you know, the north was always the bad guys. And, you know, that's basically the realm we know. Now, if you go to the second map, which is a kind of overlay of the Beleriand map with the new Middle Earth map. But the Beleriand map is underwater.
Yeah, so you can see this map depicts like the landmass where it was, but it shows it being underwater and where the border is now, where the coastline is now of Middle Earth. But you can see how much land got destroyed. Is destroyed the right word, or just like sunk?
Sunk.
Yeah.
Sunk.
So okay. You can see that's like, I want to say like a little more than half.
Yeah. So now, if you look at the Middle Earth map that I sent you. So now the mountains that were kind of dividing Beleriand from the east are now a lot closer.
To the shoreline.
To the shoreline, yeah. So it becomes a bit more complicated than just east and west. So kind of have to keep with me with the references. But if you look at the area in the top, let's see, left corner, the northwest corner, it's called Linden or Lindon. See it? And that little blue mountains next to it. So funny enough, if you remember way back when we covered chapter 14 of Beleriand and its realms, and we tried all not to go insane, I think I called that episode I'm the Map, just because it wasn't our most entertaining episode, and I am 5. But during that episode, when I was explaining our Beleriand Risk game board, I was describing the area in the southeast of Beleriand called Osiriand. And I'm bringing this up now because when I mentioned what the Noldor called Osiriand, when they first saw it, you like gasped and were confused. And so this is finally the moment where I can clear this up. I've been waiting so long.
Okay.
So the Noldor called Osiriand Lindon, the land of music, and the mountains beyond that, Arid Lindon. So these were the mountains that divided Beleriand from the east and had the two main dwarf settlements of Nogrod and Belagost. And since everything's all shaken up now, we now have Lindon, the same Lindon, on the northwest coast, and just a few remaining mountains of that mountain range of Arid Lindon. So if you go to the final map that I sent you, there is a left side is the Beleriand version, pre-War of Wrath. So you have Osiriand in the bottom, the south with Arid Lindon.
There's no coast. There's no coastline.
There's no water. And then on the right, you have post-War of Wrath. And there's lots more water. And not
Uh-huh.
all the mountains are in a line anymore. There's some kind of gaps.
Okay, I
So,
see this.
yes. So, sorry if that's a bit boring. And of course, I will post it for you visual people out there. But
Oh, and it
just
also
know,
says that near
oh,
there is the Grey Havens.
I was getting to that, Abby.
It's
Spoilers!
right there. It's on the map.
So,
And that's a spoiler.
you hear that, Abby?
What? What'd she say? What'd she say to me, Lizzie?
and-
What are you saying?
She said, and that's a spoiler.
Lizzie.
So, Lindon, I'm sorry, I'm just going to say Linden. I'm sorry, I can't. Lindon is where is where the majority of elves live that didn't want to leave Middle Earth after the War of Wrath. So it was kind of like the gathering spot. It was like the camp. I can imagine like the war camp of like, all right, this is our final outpost. Okay, everyone evacuating from here, and then the people that didn't want to evacuate stayed.
It's their Palm Springs or their Florida, where they go, where they're retired, but they're not ready to leave yet.
Yes. Well, and including in that area is our man, High King Gil-galad, son of Fingon. Remember, Fingon was the one that died fighting Gothmog, who had rescued his friend Maedrus. And his father was Gothmog. And his father was Fëanor's brother, who just wanted to be his friend, Fingolfin. He just wanted to be Fëanor's friend. Yeah. So, Gil-galad, the bleeding hearts, brothers, we'll call them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So he's in Linden. Also, our man, Elrond, half elven. Mother was Elwing, who turned into a bird. Hard to forget that one. And father was the absent mariner who loved the ocean more than his family. Erendiel, who's floating on a ship in the sky somewhere with a Silmaril. And twin brother was Elros, who was the first king of Numenor, who chose a mortal life and died a long time ago at this point.
Do you think that Elrond, the reason why Elrond is so like wants to keep his daughter around is because he doesn't want to abandon or leave her like his parents left him?
Yeah, that sounds very accurate.
Just,
Well,
those kind of thoughts.
Yeah.
Those are the things I think about.
Well, anyways, let's brush aside those feelings. Linden was actually a prime location because, as it is on the coast, it has access to the sea, which, of course, all elves love the sea. But if you look at the map, again, it has a sort of natural harbor of sorts that they called the Gulf of Lune. And it's called that because of the Lune River that flows into it. Lune basically just means blue because the river comes from the Blue Mountains. Blue Mountains are also known as...
Is it Luin?
It's Lhun, of course, because why not?
Hoon.
Hoon, yeah. So Blue Mountains are the same as Arid Luin, just for clarification.
All right. Okay.
So this perfectly formed harbor was ideal for the elf settlement there in Linden because this is where they built what you already spoiled, Mithlond, aka the Grey Havens.
Oh. So this was
ahead.
like an actual city? Because like in the movies, it just looked like a harbor, like a dock.
Well, it's more than just that. So consider Lindon the county.
Okay.
The Grey Havens being a city and another city where they actually dwelled. But I didn't want to confuse you all with names, so I just call it all Linden.
All right.
Quote, and there they held many ships, for the harborage was good. From the Grey Havens the Eldar ever and anon set sail, fleeing from the darkness of the days of earth. For by the mercy of the Valar, the firstborn, the elves, could still follow the straight road and return, if they would, to their kindred in Erisea and Valinor.
So they can only go one way, though, right? Like if they go, they can't come back.
Correct. And also keep in mind, because we're back in time, So Valinor and Arisea haven't been they haven't been elevated yet. So this is still pre-Numenor times, or downfall of Numenor times. So the elves that didn't want to leave Middle Earth, didn't want to stay in Lindon, they went across the Blue Mountains, or Arid Lindon, and established realms of their own. And some of these were Teleri elves. It's kind of vague here, but they just kind of headed into the woods and mountains and eventually kind of joined up with the Sylvan elves, the elves that eventually formed the realms of Lorien and Mirkwood. Not sure if you've heard of those.
It rings a bell.
Yeah. Quote, and they established realms among the Sylvan elves in woods and mountains far from the sea, for which, nonetheless, they ever yearned in their hearts.
Oh.
Yeah. So they still always love the sea. But I never thought about the elves of Lorien and Mirkwood really have no ties to the sea at all. And yet it's such a big part of other elf cultures.
Is Mirkwood where
Thranduil.
Yeah, Legolas is from?
Yeah.
Okay.
The only other main settlement of elves was Eregion, or the Land of Holly. And this was founded and mainly populated by elves that were of the Noldor, and including our long-forgotten buddy, Celebrimbor, son of Corofin, who was one of the jerkface sons of Fëanor. But Celebrimbor is kind of separated himself from his father.
He's a decent man. A decent man.
Yeah. So the craftsmen of Eregion were called the Gwaith y Myrddin, or the people of the jewel smiths.
Whoa.
Quote, surpassed in cunning all that have ever wrought, save only Fëanor himself, and indeed greatest in skill among them was Celebrimbor. So I feel like...
cool name.
Yeah. And a cool grandpa. So I do feel like the Rings of Power did get that part right. Like, just the feel that Eregion was a place of tradesmen, and this was where they make all the pretty things. This is like the artists.
Is that where we saw him, Celebrimbor?
Yes.
Is that the place where they were like making the furnace and everything?
Yeah.
So why? Okay. So did Elrond know his lineage, Celebrimbor's lineage? You'd have to assume that he knows stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like Celebrimbor's like family tree branches are a lot shorter to get to him than they are to get to Elrond. If that makes sense.
Much shorter though.
Like he's still, I feel like he's a little bit more OG than
yeah. Well, and plus Elrond has man blood in him.
Also, and they mentioned that in the Rings of Power too. Also, Celebrimbor talks about like knowing
Eärendil.
Knowing him, but also did he know Fëanor? No, Fëanor, that guy.
He had his hammer. I call him.
I know,
Fëanor.
but he wasn't Fëanor. But he wasn't around then. Like he didn't like. Was he around then?
I don't know, because it's not very clear when he was born, like where he was versus when Fëanor. I'm pretty no. Yeah, I don't think he was alive before Fëanor died, because that was pretty early on.
Yeah, but he like knew so much about him, and I was like, he knows. I don't know. He kind of, to me, in the Rings of Power, acted like he learned from him, like he knew his skills.
Well, I imagine that the other brothers had some skill, possibly. I don't know. Maybe.
Okay.
You never know.
Okay.
Well, Eregion was very close to the dwarves of Khazad-dûm, aka Moria. Khazad-dûm. And believe it or not, so I mean, like I said, we're towing a line here between accurate, not accurate with the show. They actually had a very good relationship with the dwarves. And it doesn't say
just hurt. Okay. It was just an emotionally hurt.
The friendship. It might have been Elrond, like it was in the show. It doesn't say. Quote, for a friendship arose.
Okay.
Rude. Just kidding.
Okay, say it. Say it.
No,
a friendship, because I have something to add to it.
It's too late, Abby.
Well, I was just saying that the dwarves freely came to Elrond when he asked them to come when the ring was found, like that council. Wasn't it? Did he ask them to come, or did they come? Wasn't like each person who came to the council about the ring in the Fellowship of the Ring had different reasons of being there, or did they know that it was about the ring or about something?
They knew it was, I mean, in the movie it said that they summoned them, but that's not how it actually went down. They were there for other reasons. I don't remember at this exact point in time.
But I'm saying like they went there. Like I feel like they have a good relationship with Elrond. Like they weren't cool with Legolas, but they were like, we're cool with Elrond.
Maybe with Elrond. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, but still a lot of distrust between elves and dwarves. But this is before all that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's before all that.
My little peanut crab back here. Quote, for a friendship arose between dwarves and elves, such as has never elsewhere been, to the enrichment of both those peoples. So they helped each other out.
Aww.
So just to review, for elf settlements, we have Lindon with Gil-galad and Elrond in the northwest coast, and that has the Grey Havens, kind of a jumping off point to Valinor if they wanted to go. Then we have random elves joining up with the Sylvan elves somewhere in the mountains and woods of Middle-earth, possibly eventually becoming Lorien and Mirkwood down the road. And we have Eregion with Celebrimbor and other cool craftsmen who are good friends with the nearby dwarves of Moria. With me so far? Okay. Then we have some very random elves. They're called the Wandering Elves or the Avari, aka the Unwilling, because these were the guys that just from the very beginning, like the very, very beginning, refused the summons of the Valar and just kind of were wandering. They were also known as like the Dark Elves because they never saw the light of the trees of Numenor. Many were captured and corrupted by Melkor and possibly turned into orcs. But these guys have always just been wandering. Beleriand, Middle-earth, they just don't have a lord. They don't have a home. Yeah, they're basically nomads. Quote, elsewhere in Middle-earth, there was peace for many years, yet the lands were for the most part savage and desolate, save only where the people of Beleriand came. Many elves dwelt there indeed, as they had dwelt through the countless years, wandering free in the wide lands far from the sea. But they were Avari, to whom the deeds of Beleriand were but a rumor, and Valinor only a distant name.
Oh.
So these Avari elves, they're just so random. Like they're nomads. They are hermits that don't involve themselves in the wars, and they don't know anything about, Turin or, what's been going on in Beleriand. And they only know
they're
Valinor.
Off the grid.
They're off the grid. I like it. Yeah. But also think of Adar from the Rings of Power, possibly. Possibly. But they just kind of fill in the blank places on our risk game board.
Okay.
But yeah. And then as for the men of Middle-earth, at least what I like to call the Forgotten Men, they dwelt... So this is not the Numenorians that escaped. This is just the men that have already been here. They dwelt mainly in the south and some further east, kind of like what we saw in the show, the Easterlings and the Southlands.
They're quote, like sad hillbilly people.
Yes, basically. Quote, and in the south and in the further east, men multiplied, and most of them turned to evil, for Sauron was at work. Because
There are
where
orcs
is
going
Mordor?
around. There are orcs going around knocking on doors like, have you heard the word of Sauron?
But really, though, because Mordor is also in the south, like, what's gonna happen?
Yeah, they're so close by.
Yeah.
I wonder which side they'll choose.
So that's actually where I'm gonna leave you today. So we set up our risk game board. We know where the elves are. We've kind of figured out where the Forgotten Men are. And Sauron is just
So
working hard.
in this, has the fall of Numenor happened or not yet?
Not yet.
Okay. All right. So Isildur and his dad have not come over yet.
Correct.
Okay. We're just setting up another timeline.
Yes.
Getting all confused.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
All right. All right.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, thanks for teaching me today.
You're welcome. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Sisters of the Shire Podcast. Become a patron and join our Patreon at patreon.com/Sisters of the Shire Podcast. You can join our dwarf friend, Dan. Thank you, Dan, for all your support and all your kind messages.
Dan.
And our elf friends of the Shire, Christine and Tom. Thank you, Christine and Tom.
Say
Thank you, Christine and Tom.
Awesome.
And then please, please, please rate us on whatever platform you listen to your podcast on. We got a new rating on Spotify. Thank you. And
also
you guys,
share with your friends.
share with your friends. We are almost up to 10,000 plays. I mean, I know. It's pretty cool. And we got a new country. We're up to 57
global domination.
different countries.
Global domination. Yes.
And what's
Yes.
the new country?
And Israel, Dan, you're back up to your 2%. I know you were worried about it. You're back up. Thank you. I know you're busy, but we appreciate your support.
Okay, I'm going to guess the
And what's the new
continent.
place?
Okay, I'm going to guess
Okay.
Europe.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to guess Spain.
Very close. We already have Spain. But very, very close.
It's
Portugal?
Yes.
P-O-R-T-U-G-A.
Yes.
A-L. Portugal.
Portugal.
Say thank you, Portugal.
Thank you, Portugal.
Yay,
And they've
Portugal.
been binging because they snuck on. Usually the first listeners are at the very bottom, and this one was already 26. So I mean, thank you. Yeah.
That's right, Portugal. You're small but mighty. Take it over. You can do it.
And we still have U.S. as number 1, Germany number 2, Australia and UK, Canada, Netherlands, Sweden, Israel, Norway, and Thailand for our top 10.
Woo!
Woo
I
woo!
love how international it
Oh,
is.
that's
Just all over.
Yeah.
Well, that's
All right.
exciting.
So excited. Well, thank you for joining us today. And until next week, I've been Ashley.
And I've been Abby, and this has been the Sisters of the Shire podcast. And we hope you join us next time. Bye!
Bye!
Bye.